myself for my great moment that never happened.
People used to say me 8 man. That was a reputation that I was given.
But Tana, you beat man body in your song then.
Which man?
We really want to know if for the people them man did that take set.
Obviously. I'm like, there's no story there.
The Cut, brought to you by Flo and Rare Nephew.
Now I'm where I wanna be.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out, don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
There's a new woman in charge at the Integrity Commission. New chairman replacing retired Justice Seymour Panton is Carol Lawrence Beswick, and along with Brian Winter, she represents the two changes to the composition of the Integrity Commission. So what of the future of this Commission of Parliament? How will they shake off the controversy that has dogged their work over the last 2.5 to 3 years? I get the perspective of a veteran and experienced journalist on this very important issue this evening on Lee's Story. It's time to start the show. Well, it's old news now that retired Justice Seymour Panton says he has had enough of the Integrity Commission, serving as the chairman of the Commission of Parliament, and so he has opted to not seek an extension of his term of contract, which ended over the past few days. Carol Lawrence Beswick has been announced by King's House as the new chairman of the Commission, and along with Brian Winter, she represents the two new faces on the Commission. Along with retired Justice Seymour Panton, Eric Crawford is no longer a member of the Commission, but the rest of the board of the Commission remains in place. So where the Integrity Commission is concerned and the changes made, and of course the new woman at the helm, just who is Carol Lawrence Beswick and what is the experience of Brian Winter, his antecedents? We answer those questions for you.
Governor General Sir Patrick Allen has announced the appointment of retired Judge Carol Lawrence Beswick as the new chairperson of the Integrity Commission, the IC. She will serve alongside Commissioners Pamela Monroe Ellis, Auditor General of Jamaica, retired Justice Lloyd Hibbert, Wayne Powell, and newly appointed Commissioner Brian Winter, former Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, the BOJ. Lawrence Beswick's appointment follows the departure of retired Justice Seymour Panton, whose chairmanship ended on February 25, that's a few days ago. Lawrence Beswick, a highly experienced jurist with more than 20 years as a puisne judge of the Supreme Court of Jamaica, retired in December 2022. She has also held the positions of Assistant Director of Public Prosecutions and Acting Judge of Appeal in Jamaica. Meanwhile, Winter brings extensive expertise in monetary policy and financial regulation, having served as the Governor of the Bank of Jamaica from 2009 to 2019. However, Beswick's appointment comes at a time when the anti-corruption watchdog is facing criticism, as the public expresses concern over the pace and the effectiveness of its investigations, with some critics going as far as accusing the IC of being politically affiliated and biased in its investigations. So will the new faces appointed to the Integrity Commission, the IC, sway public perception? We discuss on Lead Story.
All right. After the break, we'll gauge the public's reaction. Just did a vox pop to get a flavor rather, of how the public saw the work of the IC, and then I'll hear from Lloyd B. Smith.
Excuse me, that looks delicious. Where did you get that pizza?
Pizza, please. Best pizza in town. Pizza Please, the widest variety of pizzas in Jamaica. Grab a slice or order a whole pie. Find us at 4 locations across Kingston and Ocho Rios and at pizzapleaseja.com. Pizza Please, Italian pizzas, Jamaican flavors.
2 familiar faces.
I'm kind of fanning out right now.
Big up your audience. But I have taste.
Guinness out the fridge, Magnum and out the tray. I said the monster them roar. Roar. I was obsessed.
And then I sang me the answer. Gangsta girl no wanna shy guy. Me just get up in the morning, take my thought of me, I brush my teeth and ear bomb me in a 1 hour.
I was preparing myself for my great moment that never happened.
People used to say me 8 man. That was a reputation that I was given.
But Tana, you beat man body in your song then.
Which man?
Me really want to know if for the people them man did that text it.
Obviously. I'm like, there's no story there.
The Cut, brought to you by Flo and Rare Nephew.
Now I'm where I wanna be.
I personally think that the Integrity Commission is a good office and it should be managed properly and it should have laws set in place to protect it from the very same people that it's investigating, like the politicians and all authorities, all government officials that it is investigating. Also, I personally think, I don't know, because I don't know exactly the laws surrounding the Integrity Commission, but it should have laws that have teeth. Where it finds corruption, it's not simply swept under the mat because of a technicality.
And we need the Integrity Commission to clear up all of those stuff that is going. Like the thieving and all those things that is going on, such as like the money that they are taking out and, you know, a lot of stuff, man. We all know that as Jamaican. So we need the Integrity Commission to stay intact.
The same thing they do put us through whatever transaction we are doing, they question us about it, right? So they have somebody who want to question them about it, so why not? It's fair enough for me.
They are effective, you know, but them still have some orders where them can't reveal, which sometimes you wonder if them do effective. To me, them not effective because them now do the right thing.
The public reacting to the Integrity Commission, and perhaps it is that a stern observer who isn't partial to pleasantries would say Jamaicans don't seem to understand what the Integrity Commission does and how it works. But we'll leave that for a little bit. I welcome now Lloyd B. Smith. He's no stranger. He's the man behind the Western Mirror, one of our foremost journalists, and has been so for some time. And he joins me now for his informed perspective. Good evening, Lloyd.
Good evening, sir.
Right.
Very much here.
Welcome to Lead Story. May I start this way, Lloyd, by asking if, when you look at a man like Seymour Panton and the reputation he brought to the job of Integrity Commission chairman, would you say that he leaves with that reputation soiled, not because of any controversy that he engineered, but just by virtue of how the Integrity Commission trended under his leadership, that perhaps in the future people will look back and hold this against a man who is of the most exemplary character? Does this stint as Integrity Commission chairman damage the brand Seymour Panton, you believe?
Well, in terms of perception, I would say yes. For those of us who are more discerning, perhaps we would think otherwise. But for the average citizen out there, it would come across as if his reputation has in fact been damaged somewhat by virtue of how things have unfolded. Clearly, the Integrity Commission needs to be retrofitted. It needs to be looked at in its entirety, and a number of things need to be done to make it more effective and less combative. Unfortunately, the run-ins that Justice Panton had with parliamentarians at the committee meetings and so on, oversight meetings, did leave somewhat of a bitter taste. in the mouths of many persons observing what was going on. And there was even the perception that maybe he had overstepped his bounds, if you remember that incident when he spoke about the water.
Yes.
And that he would not drink the water that Parliament offers him. He took his own water because there seemed to be something. I think maybe he was under so much pressure that he went over the edge there.
Do you think that if he had perhaps taken a different approach himself as chairman, in the white heat of the political partisanship, are you hearing me? Are you hearing me, Lloyd?
Yes, go ahead.
Right. So I'm saying, do you believe if he had taken a different approach to matters, notwithstanding the white heat of political partisanship which attended to the work of the Integrity Commission, that perhaps the average Jamaican looking on would regard his role differently than they seem to do?
Okay, the first part of your question I did not hear very distinctly. You were breaking up a bit, so maybe you would need to rephrase
all right.
please.
I wanted to hear me clearly, Lloyd, so let's take a break and come right back and see if we can resolve the audio issues. This is Lead Story on CVM TV.
I found Nigel to be a very reserved person. It's certainly not the Nigel you see today.
I was terrified when I went to Monroe.
I have a lot of respect and regard for him. I will actually miss him.
Brilliant. Definitely one of the brightest minds that Jamaica has ever produced.
Not many people would take on this challenge. So he made the job of EPOC quite easy.
I was president of the Jamaica Chess Federation when I met Dr. Clark at this tournament. Immediately, he impressed me as someone with tremendous possibility.
I found him to be very probing, very thorough, sort of data-driven, respected analysis.
There was very strong artistic sense to me, to who I am as a person.
But who is Nigel Clark?
Welcome back to Lead Story. So we had a technical issue that we seem to have conquered, and now I can crack on with a discussion with Lloyd B. Smith. Lloyd, you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I am. I am hearing you.
Right. So what I was asking was that mannerisms matter in certain instances, and I was asking if perhaps the chairman himself had perhaps moderated the tone he adopted in public when he spoke, his interaction with the parliamentarians who, prompted by the partisan nature of our politics, the rhetoric from them was high. But if he had perhaps taken a different approach, perhaps people's perception of the overall situation concerning the commission and his own role could have been perceived differently. Do you agree with that perspective?
Yes, to a large extent. I have known Justice Panton. In fact, I have appeared before him in a matter. I was somewhat taken aback at times by his mannerisms, his deportment, his overall body language and that sort of thing. But I suspect that he was under a lot of pressure.
Yes.
Let's face it, that there were a number of barbs being hurled at him, and he's human, and I suspect that the pressure got to him, and he, to some extent, may have overreacted.
Yeah.
And this would not have been to his benefit, given the fact that he ought to have maintained his, calmness and that sort of thing. But I suppose we can forgive him.
Yes, because I want to say to you, to agree with the point that you've been making consistently since we've been speaking, that he was under, and the commission was under, tremendous pressure. And I want to ask you, what if, when you imagine, if it is that the Integrity Commission's work was not focused on the Prime Minister and his statutory declarations and its failure to certify same. And the fact that the PNP, there's no argument about it, the PNP sought to weaponize this fact. The ruling JLP went on the offensive to defend their party leader. And so you had a heightened political rhetoric around the Prime Minister's declarations and the role of the IC. That perhaps without this and the normal course could have been taken where the IC went before the select committee to review the legislation, that without this noise and rabid partisanship, that perhaps the outcome could have been different and Seymour Panton could well have come back for a second stint as chairman of the IC.
Yes, I think that in the very final analysis, the PNP may have done him an injustice because, as you quite rightly said, the heightened partisan political environment that was thrust upon him, and unnecessarily so, I think he should have been allowed to defend his work. You know, after all, in the judicial setting, as we know, he would not have been so assailed.
Yes.
So unfortunately, in the context of our political culture, and as you quite rightly pointed out, if you go after the Prime Minister, there's going to be a lot of flack there because there's the emotional aspect and, you know, troubling my leader and that sort of thing. And
yes.
I think that perhaps to some extent, the PNP should have acted a little bit more, should have distanced itself somewhat from the proceedings at that stage and allowed for Justice Panton to carry out his task and then at the appropriate time in Parliament. Because I think one of the problems I have is when politicians take matters relating to the Integrity Commission on the hostage.
Yes.
I don't think that should happen.
Yes.
Whatever is to be discussed, debated, quarrel about, do it in Parliament, do it in the confines of Parliament, because, you know, at times, some of the things that were said about Panton by the politicians, I thought they were libelous, you know.
Yes, yes,
you know?
yes.
And if they had said it in Parliament, they would have been protected.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So looking at what we have now, during the Joint Select Committee meetings, we heard several things being put forward. Everett Warmington is never short of an opinion on how the Integrity Commission should be comprised, the leadership, and what the Commission should be empowered to do. And there were other members across the political divide who had perspectives, had proposals on how the Integrity Commission to be set up. From your perspective, is there anything, I don't want to say fundamentally, but in real terms, is there anything wrong with how the Integrity Commission is empowered to act under law sufficient for you to want to see that changed as this new chairperson and her team set to work?
No, I think the parameters that are there, apart from the controversial gag order, which perhaps needs to be revisited, the parameters that were set out, the structure of the commission, if it is allowed to do its work, I don't see why there's any necessity for any major change. It is a creature of Parliament. And these very same parliamentarians were integrally involved in its creation. So if they have now detected any weaknesses or flaws in its overall structure, surely there must be the right mechanism through which it pursues, you know, any meaningful changes, but not to do so in a combative and derogatory manner, which then weakens the overall strength of the commission. Because, as you know, in our setting, the average Jamaican out there is going to take sides.
Yes.
Whether it's green side or orange side.
Yes.
And then when the Integrity Commission is caught between those two volatile factions, then the Integrity Commission, which is what has happened, becomes a political football.
Yes.
And that ought never to be the case.
But let me ask you this, because it's funny again, you say that the politicians, in terms of changing the law, changing the Integrity Commission law, they were the ones who put it in place in the first place. I've heard that argument, Lloyd B., and I've said to myself, well, what is true is that not many pieces of legislation get a stress test in the real world as the Integrity Commission law has, because there were things that attended to the provisions of the Integrity Commission law that came under partisan attack and sustained pressure like not many pieces of legislation before. So you wouldn't have known that this safeguard or this measure can be interpreted that way and can cause this to happen. So I'm not among those who are saying that the politicians, they passed the law, so it is ridiculous for the same politicians to now be advocating for the change of the law. What I'm saying is the law has gone a real world stress test and may have served up certain deficiencies that were not evident when they sat to decide what pieces of facilitation to write into the law. What say you on that?
I agree with you, because, look, when we are dealing with matters of integrity, vis-a-vis corruption and malfeasance and all this sort of thing, there can be so many gray areas. And the act is not perhaps going to be at the very outset. I see the Integrity Commission to some extent as a work in progress.
Yes.
And so in that regard, it will need, as we go along, some tempering, some readjustments, and so on and so forth. But as I said before, these activities should be done within the confines of the Parliament with some degree of temperance and calmness and not attacking, because what happened is that some of these attacks became personal.
Yes.
On the chairman. And as I said, I think that is perhaps why he lost his cool to some extent and perhaps went overboard. But yes. The reality is that, I still believe that, as I said, it's a work in progress.
Yes.
And what needs to be done, what the Integrity Commission now needs to do under Justice Beswick is, as has been suggested elsewhere, it needs now to engage the wider public in a more meaningful way. Because even the question of integrity and corruption, how many Jamaicans really fully understand and appreciate what is corrupt and what do we mean by integrity?
Yeah, yes, very good points. Because I for one think that most of us don't understand what corruption is. But hear me now, Lloyd B. I'm thinking as well that the gag clause element, as controversial as it is, there is a workaround. Because here's the thing. I believe that communication from the commission was woefully lacking. Seymour Panton may have had, in his 70 years as chairman, two, if so many, press conferences, 6 years as chairman, two press conferences in all of his time, which I don't think is good enough. Secondly, when questions are asked in the public domain by what is said on the political hustings and the public gets confused and they want to understand, and for the commission to cite the gag clause, I thought that was wrong, because if Lloyd B. Smith and George Davis are under investigation, and that's what the politicians say on the hustings, and the Integrity Commission is called upon to provide some clarity, there's nothing in my mind that stops the Integrity Commission from having a press conference to say, listen, we hear about certain things in the public domain. We are not commenting on individual cases because we are barred by statute from doing just that. What we will say is that, look, our investigations continue. There's no update. Nothing that you've heard on the campaign trail is true insofar as the progress of investigations. And when the time is right, and only at that time, will we publish our findings, send to Parliament, and then it will be tabled for the consumption of the public. They did not do that at the height of the controversies, Lloyd B. Smith, and the gag clause does not prevent them from doing that.
Yes, I think part of the problem, if you were to become a little bit more discerning, is that usually the deportment of judges, they are not the ones who normally relate much to the public, so to speak.
Excellent point.
They are more confined to their chambers.
Excellent point.
And the bench.
Yes.
And so what I think needs to happen is the Integrity Commission within itself may have to look at some sort of training in the area of communication.
Yes.
How to effectively communicate, because they're not denizens, they're not demigods, they're not silos, they're part and parcel of the wider society.
Yes.
And I think that is where the Integrity Commission needs some amount of guidance, and perhaps part of its overall structure, there should be a communications expert to guide the chairman and the commission as to how it deals with public matters and responses.
Excellent.
Left to their own designs, they may well fall on their own sword, which may well have happened,
Yes. In 20 seconds or less, Lloyd B. Smith, I'm out of time. So, Carol Lawrence Beswick and Brian Winter, are they fit for purpose, you believe?
I think they are excellent choices. And then I am happy that both the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition so far have agreed to their appointments. And now they need to get to work. And the first order of business is to come up with an effective communication strategy and a public education campaign to make sure that they can relate to the wider public in a more professional and meaningful way.
Excellent, sir. Thank you for your time this evening, Lloyd B. Smith. Always appreciate you.
You're most welcome, and you keep up the good work, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Lloyd B. Smith there, the man behind the Western Mirror, one of our most experienced journalists, and his perspectives on the Integrity Commission. So Carol Lawrence Beswick and Brian Winter, along with the remaining commissioners, the Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis, H. Wayne Powell, and those individuals now have the awesome task, of getting this thing right-siding this Integrity Commission and having it work in the best interest of the public. Lloyd B. Smith is right. Communication is a big problem where the IC is concerned. I make my way out, but I see in the background, in the near ground, Nika Lewis. She's in red and black this evening, and she's looking smashing, ready to deliver a top-class newscast for you at 7. That's my time. Good evening.
Internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winford Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Where the difference is made. Where titles are decided. Where respect is earned. Excel here and you could go down in history. It's the Final Third. CVM TV's weekly JPL preview show every Sunday, starting 30 minutes before our live broadcast. Get insight, analysis, and hear from your favorite players weekly, just before we bring you our feature broadcast for the day. Move from defense to attack, and join us in the Final Third. This and every Sunday until the end of the JPL season.
Open a SEIZURE Bank savings account from anywhere. Go online and open yours today.
The time by SEIZURE Bank is
7 o'clock.
CVM News at 7 Headlines Thursday, brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy.
Tonight in CVM News at 7, Arakabessa Primary School partially destroyed by fire. Medical and media fraternity in mourning. And government moves to introduce unemployment insurance. In the business report, we talk trust deficits in the securities sector with Burrito CEO. While in sports, Reggae Girls sweep Peru with 3-2 win.
News at 7 Headlines Thursday, brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Flint.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7 for Thursday, February 27, 2025. I'm Nika Lewis. Thanks so much for joining us. Jamaicans could soon have a safety net during tough times as the government takes a major step toward introducing unemployment insurance. Labour Minister Pearnel Charles Jr. confirmed at the Labour Talks Roadshow in Mandeville, Manchester, that Cabinet has approved the policy backed by the multi-million dollar investment. Ramon Gordon has more.
The unemployment insurance scheme is now one step closer to reality as the government works to establish a framework for temporary income support. Labour Minister Pearnel Charles Jr. says it's a long time coming to strengthen the nation's workforce.
We have had the discussion on unemployment benefit for decades. When we talk about resilience, the unemployment benefit is going to be one of the most critical features in terms of being able to help people who have that transition between jobs or in times of crisis to still stay afloat.
The initiative aims to provide a financial safety net for workers facing job loss or economic downturns. Details on benefits are yet to be announced, with further updates expected in the coming months. And as the government pushes ahead with modernizing Jamaica's labour policies, another major reform is underway.
We are ramping up, revising, refining our work permit system to digitize it so that we can bring in the workers who have particular skills that we don't have here.
The new system will streamline applications, enhance oversight, and prioritize skills transfer from foreign workers to Jamaicans.
We should open the door to persons who have the skill, are competent, and want to do the work. But that must be on a balance of skills in terms of bringing in the labor and ensuring that we're transferring the skills to Jamaicans so that we can have that increased and improved skill set here. We should not have a closed door.
With unemployment at a record low of 3.5%, the minister says the focus is now on better jobs, better wages, and long-term stability. The Labour Talks Roadshow, which has already made stops in Montego Bay and St. Anne, will continue across the island, connecting job seekers with employers and advancing workforce transformation. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
Several people have been arrested and a cache of illegal firearms and ammunition recovered following a major police operation yesterday in St. Elizabeth. Commanding officer for the parish, Superintendent Coleridge Minto, says those held surrendered peacefully when confronted. Harvesting of criminals and illicit weapons continued this week, this time with a major haul in a section of the breadbasket parish of St. Elizabeth. Once known predominantly for its fruitful giving of ground provision and seafood, now a playground of sorts for migrating criminals. That was, at least, before a relentless pursuit of guns, gangs and gunmen.
At about 2 a.m. this morning, a team of officers commenced and conducted a pre-dawn operation in the Warminster area. A number of premises were searched during this operation. At this particular location, a thorough search was done of the building. A 9mm pistol was found in one of the rooms. A number of 12-gauge cartridges were also found in a stove inside the house. A further search of this area yielded a Uzi submachine gun that was found under a tree. The intelligence led us to some adjoining premises.
The commanding officer notes another welcomed aspect of their operation with the peaceful surrender of several people now in police custody in relation to the seizures.
So far, 6 persons are arrested and will be taken for further processing. This includes 5 males and 1 female. The operation ended incident-free, and the persons who were at this location surrendered peacefully to the police, and so there was no force used.
Meantime, he is encouraging the public to continue to partner with law enforcement for the safety and well-being of their communities.
I want to appeal to the citizens and the persons in this parish to continue to support the police. We are resolute in our efforts to continue to go after those who are committing criminal offenses in this parish. And certainly, we're going after those who are part of gangs and those with illegal weapons.
There are conflicting accounts surrounding the police shooting of 55-year-old Ronald Edwards in Christiana, Manchester. While authorities describe a standoff with an armed suspect, residents insist Edwards was not involved in criminal activities.
There's speculation surrounding the series of events that led to the fatal shooting of 55-year-old mechanic Ronald Richie Edwards in Christiana early Thursday morning. The police are reporting a special operation gone wrong, but residents contend the deceased was no gangster.
He's not a warmonger. People try to help everybody in the community. If a problem in the community, try to fix it with the young guys. Then even if you're vexed with each other, and try to put us together.
Head of Manchester Police, Kerry Duncan, describes a different scenario, a standoff between the police and an armed suspect.
A team armed with a warrant went to a premises in Christiana. On entering the premises, they were confronted by a man who was armed with a firearm. The man pointed the firearm in their direction. The police, in defense of their lives, responded by firing in his direction. The man was eventually hit and was subsequently taken to the Percy-Junior Hospital, where he was pronounced dead.
That explanation doesn't sit well with locals who are demanding to know why the handyman drew law enforcement's attention.
We need to know and we need to hear what's going on, because our community is a good community, clean community, not violent.
This latest incident comes amid heightened scrutiny of local law enforcement, with Jamaicans for Justice hitting back at the police commissioner for downplaying concerns over the lack of body-worn cameras.
A human rights group may express alarm, and it's appalling, and it's signaling that we're moving back to the dark days. I have never heard them one time tell the criminals, do not raise your weapons at the police. I've never heard them engage in a public education campaign about safe surrender.
And while the circumstances surrounding this latest police killing have fueled speculation, authorities in Manchester say they remain committed to law and order.
In recent times, we have instituted some curfews in the space, just for you to understand that it is not our wish to limit the movement of anyone within the parish. However, where we find we have issues where crime and disorder is taking place, then as a police force, we have to respond.
Ramon for CVM News.
Colleagues in the media fraternity are in mourning this evening following the suspected drowning of 52-year-old journalist George McCullough, affectionately called Mackie. It is suspected that upon leaving his home and visiting a nearby beach, he met into difficulties and drowned. McCullough, who was known for his video journalism, also won the Social Development Commission's dance competition on multiple occasions. Fellow media practitioner Craig Oates shared his memory.
A very good man, a very kind man. I was a kind, kind in every sense of the word. And, that is very shocking. It is unexpected. Somebody who a couple of weeks ago was so full of life. He was going through a little illness, but he was recovering and he was recovering well. I just want to say condolences to his family. He has been around in our circles for, close to 10 years, 10 years going in other region there. But he have a big heart and him help people and him care about people. And I think that is what we are going to take away, from him.
Meanwhile, the body of a medical doctor was reportedly found sometime today outside a flat in the vicinity of the University Hospital in St. Andrew. While much remains unclear, the hospital has confirmed the discovery while appealing for privacy amid the sensitive situation. Startled and confused, many Jamaicans responded online to news of a body found at the University of the West Indies sometime Thursday afternoon. The mysterious body was soon declared that of a medical doctor and reportedly found just outside a flat nearing the Ring Road at Mona. Despite the authorities being tight-lipped, sources told CVM News the junior doctor was a resident who specialized in anesthesia and worked at the University Hospital for several years. It's understood the deceased was a graduate of the UWI Mona Medical School in 2020 and shortly after began working at the hospital. It's unclear the cause or the exact time of death, but the discovery saw law enforcement flocking the area where the find was made. Sources close to the individual confirmed his identity, which we respectfully withheld for the family and the authorities, who maintained the need for privacy at the time. When our news team contacted the head of the St. Andrew Central Police late Thursday afternoon, calls went unanswered. And when CVM News contacted the communications arm of the constabulary CCN, they confirmed news of the incident but said they're awaiting further details before any information otherwise would be forthcoming. Sometime after the incident was made public, the hospital issued a statement confirming the victim was indeed a doctor, but advising due to the ongoing investigation and related sensitivities, not much more could be shared at this time. It notes, however, that it was a mournful time for those who knew the victim and sought patience and understanding. CVM News at 7 continues in just a moment.
Join my private room. Only $1,000 for a grand time.
That I know me. We never said that. But who going to believe me?
That is correct. $4,350,000. Yes, go ahead. $4 million? I never approved that.
Yes, me go doctor tomorrow. So me have to get the money today, no longer. Then no me face that. We never make no record or beg nobody no money.
Deepfakes are AI-generated images and videos made to look and sound like people we know and trust. They're used to spread misinformation, destroy reputations, and are used to commit fraud and scams. Don't fall victim to deepfakes. Protect yourself. For more information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or scan the QR code on screen.
Do it for your best life. Go check your HIV status. So keep your life trending, no pretending. Me I tell yourself do it for you, do it for you. Every time you are link with a condom, coulda husband, coulda wife, coulda be a random. Condom connect can protect your profile. Be your own fan. Do it for your best life. Do it for your best life. Don't put yourself at risk. Condom connect every time. Do it for your best life.
A section of the Arakabessa Primary School in St. Mary caught fire early Thursday morning, resulting in significant damage estimated to the tune of multi-millions and equipment and infrastructure damage. Adrian Williams reports.
Students and staff at Arakabessa Primary in St. Mary are in a state of shock following a fire to a portion of the school. The result, charred remnants of desks, chairs, and other classroom supplies, which once housed their special education and physical education units. The school's principal says the school has seen a loss of approximately $10 million in assets.
At approximately 12:30 this morning, I was notified that there's a fire on the school compound. We have lost equipment from the PE department. One of the rooms served for the special ed unit. So 2 classes were housed in there. We have lost all the furniture from there, and an abandoned classroom was engulfed as well.
Despite the damage, the bulk of the school's infrastructure remains intact.
Going forward, we'll be able to have face-to-face classes, but our special ed unit would have been affected, also the physical education department, owing to the fact that we would have lost all equipment and we would lost that teaching and learning space for the special education unit.
With the institution's activities temporarily suspended until a safe alternative is identified, Fitzroy Wilson, the mayor of Port Maria, says the municipality will provide help.
We are just awaiting on the Ministry of Education to see what exactly intervention is going to be made. Whatever can be done from the municipal corporation standpoint, we stand ready to give assistance and to render those assistance, whether it be the approval of buildings going forward and so on.
Founder of the Golden Eye Foundation, Chris Blackwell, Executive Director Travis Graham, and CEO of Island Outpost, Marika Kessler, say they will also provide support. Adrian Williams for CVM News.
Several families are now displaced after a massive fire ripped through Love Lane in Fletcher's Land, downtown Kingston, Wednesday afternoon. The blaze reportedly destroyed a bar, a tailor shop, and multiple homes before firefighters managed to bring it under control. The Jamaica Fire Brigade responded swiftly, working for hours to contain the blaze and prevent further damage. No injuries were reported, but residents say they lost everything in a matter of minutes. Normalcy has returned to the St. James High School after a heated interaction Monday between the principal and the school's chairman. Principal of St. James High School, Joseph Williams, says after meeting with the Minister of Education to settle the long-standing angst between himself and the chairman on Tuesday, normalcy has been restored. Williams advised classes resumed on Wednesday. He told CVM News a decision has been taken to not resort to settling their dispute through media interviews, advising the business of improving the students must continue. Meanwhile, the Education Minister advised the nation at the post-cabinet media briefing of the ministry's intervention while condemning the incident that unfolded at the school on Monday.
Yesterday, there was a series of meetings that we had. We had meetings with the chair, had meetings with the teachers and other concerned individuals, and went through all of the issues, all of the interpersonal issues. But interpersonal issues should never lead to students not going to school. And we feel very strongly about this, and the ministry will have to intervene earlier in some of these matters. We may have been late in terms of intervention, but I'm saying to you as Minister of Education, these things cannot continue. And I don't think anyone in Jamaica watching that video felt good about those actions. And our students deserve to be at school, not being deprived of education because of internal politics.
Additionally, following the ministry's intervention, stakeholders accept there was a breakdown that unfortunately impacted teaching and learning.
We met with the board and the staff collectively, and then we met with the board by itself. We wanted to find out what were the issues. And there are a lot of issues at St. James High. There are interpersonal issues. There are issues regarding how do they manage conflicts. That is another area that we need specific intervention. We also recognize that there was a breakdown in the governance in terms of how the board adjudicated on matters. When we spoke with the board members, they were saying, look, we want to make collective decisions. We want to be part of the decision-making process. Yes, we agree that there are some issues, but at the end of the day, we want to have a stake in it. And so there was a breakdown, and we want to fix. We have decided how to fix that, right? How do we get boards to observe their collective responsibility, which is indeed fiduciary responsibility, to act in the best interests of schools?
Still in the news, the People's National Party is holding firm on its stance that the country is in a recession, even after a major statistical agency clarified that such claims are false. The party's finance spokesperson has suggested that the recession is being felt at a more personal level. To tell us more, here's Trisha Kelly.
Following opposition claims of a recession, the government quickly shut down the allegations, and so did the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ. However, the People's National Party remains unsatisfied. The party's spokesperson on finance, Julian Robinson, tackled the matter at a party meeting this week.
2 quarters of negative growth, which most economists define as a recession. The government say no recession. But me know plenty you feel recession in your pocket. You feel recession when you go to a supermarket. You feel recession when you go to a corner shop because the money can't stretch.
The government in recent weeks attributed the economy's decline to natural disasters. Prime Minister Andrew Holness said this includes multiple weather events that occurred mid-year 2024.
Now, what has caused the last 2 quarters of the economy not to show growth? It's simple. One, we had Hurricane Beryl in July, and that impacted the agricultural sector in a significant way.
But the opposition is not buying into his remarks. Robinson suggests Beryl was merely a catalyst.
We have an economy which has been contracting, and it started to contract even before we got to Hurricane Beryl. So don't buy the argument that is Beryl make we get into this problem. We were declining before Beryl.
Since both parties remain headstrong on their stance on the matter, the Planning Institute of Jamaica recently offered clarity to prevent confusion. PIOJ Director General Dr. Wayne Henry says while there are still significant challenges, projections suggest better is coming.
It is therefore the PIOJ's assessment that the Jamaican economy, though facing a downturn in economic output, is not in a recession. Based on the most recent data and information available, the PIOJ is projecting that the economy will return to positive output performance, that is growth, in the January to March 2025 quarter.
The agency says it will continue to monitor and track developments in the economy and will update their assessment as new data becomes available. Trisha Kelly, CVM News.
Right now we take a break. Stay with us.
Pepperoni, Hawaiian, chicken chunks, vegetarian. There's no pressure to choose with Pizza Hut's amazing 4. You get 4 juicy flavors with 1 less choice to make. Pizza Hut, now that's delivery.
I found Nigel to be a very reserved person. It's certainly not the Nigel you see today.
I was terrified when I went to Monroe. I have a lot of respect and regard for him. I will actually miss him.
Brilliant. Definitely one of the brightest minds that Jamaica has ever produced.
Not many people would take on this challenge.
So he made the job of EPOC quite easy.
I was president of the Jamaica Chess Federation when I met Dr. Clark at this tournament. Immediately, he impressed me as someone with tremendous possibility.
I found him to be very probing, very thorough, sort of data-driven, respected analysis.
That was very strong artistic sense to me, to who I am as a person.
But who is Nigel Clark?
Welcome back to CVM News at 7. We now turn to regional and international news.
We begin with news
news in the region. Employers are being reminded it's unacceptable to issue short-term contracts to fill permanent positions. This is coming from Minister of Labour, Social Security and the Third Sector, Colin Jordan, who says decent work requires some level of security of tenure. CBC News Barbados tells us more.
But what we do not accept is for permanent positions for persons to be put on 3 months contracts that keep rotating. When you need a permanent full-time person, we don't accept that. And we discourage employing organizations from doing that. Do not do strange things at recruitment and then be crying afterward and then try to do strange things afterward. You make good decisions at recruitment and you treat workers well, you ought to have a relatively good work space, work area, world of work for everybody to be able to benefit from. What we do not accept any exploitation, and government always works to identify areas of exploitation.
Sunday, March 16th is the day that Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley will officially leave office. The Prime Minister made the announcement as he addressed the commissioning ceremony for the Lisa Morris Julian Boulevard in Arima on Wednesday. More from TTT News.
Since December, when Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley indicated he would resign from his post, many have been waiting to hear when his last day in office will be. As he gave the feature address at the commissioning ceremony to rename the O'Meara Road in Arima to the Lisa Morris Julian Boulevard, the Prime Minister revealed the date.
We will have the Central Block on the 10th of March. And of course, on the 15th of March, we will take completion of the construction of the Tobago Airport Terminal building. And as we do that, I leave you on the 16th of March as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago.
The Prime Minister highlighted some of his administration's accomplishments, noting that when his team took up the mantle to run the country, the oil and gas market was in a major slump.
It has not been easy, but with the dedication that we have built the foundation with, we in Trinidad and Tobago can continue to look ahead at what we can do to make our country more efficient, to make our lives more comfortable, and to promote our country as a place to do business.
And in international news, U.S. President Donald Trump announced Wednesday the end of a permit issued by the United States government that allowed energy giant Chevron Corp to pump and export Venezuelan oil, ending what had become a financial lifeline for the South American country. We hear more from France 24.
A loophole closed, an economic blow to a regime and an oil company. Donald Trump now says that a permit that had allowed American energy giant Chevron to pump and export Venezuelan oil for over 2 years in spite of U.S. sanctions is being canceled as of March 1st. Via its partnership with state oil firm PDVSA, Chevron currently pumps more than 200,000 barrels of Venezuelan oil per day, roughly 6% of its global output. The U.S. Secretary of Energy, though, says oil markets are unlikely to see a significant disruption.
America is by far the largest producer of oil and natural gas. If we can grow that production, small interruptions from other nations will not reduce in a net reduction in supply.
Venezuela has been under strict U.S. sanctions since 2020, instituted by the first Trump administration in an effort to topple authoritarian President Nicolás Maduro. Venezuela's political opposition estimates that Chevron's exemption from those sanctions has provided the Maduro government with roughly $4 billion. The permit was issued in 2022 by the Biden administration on the condition that Venezuela hold free and fair elections.
And that's it for regional and international news.
And ahead of the break, we are joined by Jordan Fort for a look at what's to come in sports.
Well, Nika, you know the big conversation today, will the National Stadium track be ready for the ISA Boys and Girls Championships March 25 to 29. Well, we've got weighing from the key stakeholders, the Minister of Sports, plus the President of the Intersecondary School Sports Association. You don't want to miss sports for that.
It's a full panel. And there you have it. Sports is a must-see. But see it happen when CVM News continues in a moment.
Crunch you